Amazing young black woman discovers 9 languages. Her unexpected talent left the judge speechless. In the quaint southern town of Willow Creek, Aaliyah felt the weight of destiny pressing against her. For years, she had been the pride of her family, raised by her fierce grandmother, the woman who worked tirelessly as a seamstress, coaxing life from fabric while neglecting her own dreams. Now, Aaliyah stood behind the counter of the local cafe, the summer sun streaming through the windows, illuminating the faces of both familiar and unknown customers. Each coffee cup poured felt like another piece of her ambition slipping away, her dreams of a future filled with travel, language, and culture set aside for insistent bills and looming responsibilities. "Hey, aren't you that linguistics major?" one customer said, smiling widely. Aaliyah chuckled, the corners of her mouth pulling upward. "Actually, I just speak a bit of Spanish," she replied, and without thinking, she rattled off a fluently spoken phrase, her confidence igniting with every syllable. The surprise on the woman's face was electric, stirring something long dormant within Aaliyah. Memories flooded her mind, scattered late-night study sessions poring over language apps, her grandmother's laughter ringing in her ears as they practiced together with books laid out on the table like a family meal. Yet, like a lingering shadow, the pressure of the town's expectations clawed at her thoughts. Aaliyah's world was built on the fragility of hope and uncertainty. Suddenly, what seemed like a small victory twisted into a source of anxiety, the whispers around town igniting both excitement and fear. As talk of her talent echoed through Willow Creek, she grappled with the idea of more languages: Thai, Arabic, Swahili. Each language opened new doors, promising cultures she'd only dipped her toes into. Slowly, the flames of possibility licked at her soul. But would that be enough to escape the financial stranglehold on her family? As the community buzzed about an upcoming talent show, a part of Aaliyah wanted to seize the opportunity. A glimmer of scholarship money might alleviate their struggles, a chance to share the wealth of wisdom she had accrued through countless nights dedicated to languages. But doubt bloomed in her heart, suffocating that hope. The judge, known for his harshness and bias, hovered in her mind like a dark cloud. Would he see her as more than a name on a piece of paper? To him, would she be defined by the expectations pressed upon her rather than her undeniable tenacity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days leading up to the talent show turned into a whirlwind of emotions, fragments of determination marred by paralyzing self-doubt. With every rehearsal, the echoes of her past whispered cruelly, her skin and story weighed too heavy under the judge's scrutinizing gaze. Standing on stage, the spotlight carved out a cocoon of expectation around her, a haunting mirror of her internal struggle. As she began her performance, unveiling a poem titled Voices of the World, she transitioned effortlessly from language to language. Suddenly, a fleeting thought shattered her focus. What if this was a mistake? The judge's furrowed brow flashed like a warning sign. The final line approached, but hesitation crept in, pausing her breath and doubling her heart's fervor. Would she signal her own demise with every syllable delivered? An electrifying tension filled the room, the silence palpable. She waited for a verdict. Would it be embrace or rejection? The crowd fell into an anxious stillness, and with her heart racing, Aaliyah fought to maintain the resolve she so desperately needed, teetering on the precipice of everything she feared and everything she longed for. The anticipation in the room became a living entity, suffocating and vibrant. Aaliyah's heart thudded in her chest like a distant drum, a rhythm drowned out by the silence. She could feel the weight of the words she had strung together, fragile as glass yet fierce with intention. The final line danced on her lips, an enigmatic promise that could either evoke applause or disdain. In that moment, time fractured. Each gaze locked on her felt like a challenge, every breath drawn became a measurement of worth. With an internal scream of defiance, she folded her worries into the depths of her resolve. She had come too far to retreat now. Bracing herself against the facade, she invoked the strength of the voices she embodied in her performance. The dreams woven through her grandmother's laughter and late-night struggles surged within her, propelling Aaliyah forward. She spoke not just for herself, but for the myriad tales each language represented, the rich tapestry of culture and identity awaiting her. The final phrase rolled off her tongue with newfound conviction, the crowd pulsed in response, and at that moment, she felt something shift. As the applause washed over her, Aaliyah's previous uncertainty melted away. She had transformed simply by allowing her voice to intertwine with the languages she loved. Curiously, the judge's expression cracked, revealing something unrecognizable, perhaps admiration hidden beneath skepticism. "It's not just talent, it's your truth," a woman in the audience remarked as Aaliyah descended from the stage, her heart still racing. The words sank deep, solidifying her belief that language was a bridge, not only to cultures far removed but also to the core of her identity. In the days that followed, Aaliyah grappled with the aftermath of her performance. Encouraged by strangers and friends alike, she contemplated her next steps. Scholarship opportunities flourished in her mind, each one a potential escape from financial strain, but the prospects felt constricted under the weight of her fears. Thoughts of rigorous applications swirled. Would they expose her vulnerabilities or elevate her passions? At the heart of her contemplation lay an unwavering question: what did success mean to her? Was it simply about financial stability, or was it waiting beyond the confines of Willow Creek, beckoning her to explore the world? Restrictive notions gnawed at her mind, competing with visions of her grandmother, humbled yet spirited, who whispered fragments of wisdom: the importance of chasing dreams, of stitching together life's aspirations. Determined to no longer allow fear to dictate her choices, Aaliyah began to write again. Words flowed from her fingertips, not just in poetry but also in letters to schools and organizations offering scholarships for linguistic studies. As she crafted each line, clarity emerged. These were expressions of her journey, and she wielded her narrative as power. With every rejection, her resolve crystallized. Yet, an unexpected crossroads lay ahead. A flyer fluttered through the cafe one afternoon, advertising a summer language immersion program abroad, unexplored and distant. The tuition highlighted in bold letters sent a ripple of apprehension through her. It was an investment one she could not afford but desperately desired. While the thought of applying kindled a flicker of hope, the overwhelming weight of her responsibility loomed larger. Staring at the flyer, Aaliyah felt torn between duty to her family and ambition for herself. The thought of leaving felt like betrayal. Could she pursue her dreams while granting her grandmother's sacrifices the recognition they deserved? As uncertainty churned within her, the deadline for the application loomed ever closer. It was time to face the truth about her own worth and wrestle with the choices that would define her path. The echo of her own voice lingered in her mind, urging her to take the leap. Would she prioritize the shackles of expectation or embrace the call of her aspirations? With courage swelling in her chest, Aaliyah stood, ready to confront whatever came next, uncertainty or resolve. Each step toward her decision ushered in new possibilities, and as she hesitated, she felt the weight shift again, the moment demanding clarity between her past and future. The time had come to face the reality of her ambitions, beyond the walls that confined her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Aaliyah stood at her kitchen table, surrounded by scattered papers and the remnants of her grandmother's fading recipes. But her focus was elsewhere, on the thick pile of scholarship applications. Each one required not just details, but a testament of her heart and narrative that revealed the depths of her journey. It seemed an insurmountable task, the stakes felt impossibly high. The weight of her responsibilities pulsed through her veins, mingling with an electrifying spark of ambition. Her fingers trembled as she opened her laptop, ready to type. She hesitated, staring at the blank page, an abyss of possibilities, threaded with fears lurking just beneath the surface. What if her truth wasn't enough? What if vulnerability became a target for rejection? A shuffle from behind pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. Need any help? Her younger brother, Malik, peered over her shoulder, his hopeful smile both a balm and an added pressure. "I'm okay, just trying to find the right words," she replied, forcing a smile, but inside she felt the familiar knot of self-doubt tighten. "I think you can do it. You're good at this stuff," he said, genuine admiration shining from his eyes. Maybe it was the innocence in his belief that summoned Aaliyah's resolve. In that moment, she glimpsed the catalyst she needed. Her journey was not simply about her, it was about her family as well. Every jump she made into the unknown represented a collective strength forged through hardship. As she began to type, thoughts flowed like water, unrestricted. She wove together her experiences, from late-night study sessions fueled by her grandmother's stories to confronting the challenge of her dual identity. Each keystroke surfaced a new layer of her narrative, creating a mosaic of obstacles transformed into strength. The clock ticked steadily, but in that chaos, she found clarity. However, a nagging thought whispered doubts. What tangible impact would her words have? Would they resonate with the selection committee? She leaned back in her chair, a sense of unease settling in her chest. It dawned on her that authenticity might serve her better than perfection. Perhaps a raw portrayal of her growth, sprinkled with her doubts and triumphs, could strike the right chord. Taking a deep breath, Aaliyah pushed deeper into her narrative. She reflected on the defining moment of her performance, when her voice fully emerged, binding her to her cultural roots. It was then she understood, she needed to embrace her imperfections. Real journey was messy and chaotic. Still, with only days until the application's deadline, urgency gnawed at her during each passing hour. Could she truly lay bare her soul in just a few sentences? The intensity of her pulse quickened. This was no mere application, but rather a reflection of her commitment to transformation and growth. Determined, she forged ahead, illuminating her aspirations and fears on the screen. When night fell, she hadn't just composed statements, she had breathed life into her story. Yet, an unexpected distraction materialized. A voice left on her voicemail that had stirred the peace she'd begun to cultivate. "Aaliyah, it's Ms. Thompson from the school," the message began. "I have some news about a potential opportunity that might interest you." Her heart raced. Did the universe just conspire on her behalf? The uncertainty felt electric, yet more than that, it nudged her to delve deeper into personal exploration. Merging her focus with that curious voice, Aaliyah's thoughts danced between the application she had left unfinished and the promise of something new. This interlude beckoned her to confront yet another challenge. What awaited her on the other side of that message? She hesitated, contemplating the swirling mix of hope and fear enveloping her. Destiny was calling, but would she answer, risking everything she had come to know? With her finger hovering above the dial, Aaliyah felt the pull of fate tugging at her existence, urging her toward a choice that could alter the course of her journey forever. She craved the thrill of discovery but was still tethered to her responsibilities. Would she dare to take the plunge into the unknown yet again? The anticipation ignited a spark of resolve. With determination thrumming beneath her skin, Aaliyah braced herself for whatever lay ahead. Aaliyah's heart raced as she pressed the green button to dial Ms. Thompson. Each ring sent a tremor of anticipation through her. What opportunity awaited? A part of her yearned for a new path, a different direction that could pull her from the heaviness she felt tethered to. Moments later, Ms. Thompson's warm voice broke through. "Aaliyah, I'm glad you called back. I've been following your remarkable progress throughout the year, and there's something I'm excited to share." The sound of her mentor's enthusiasm washed over Aaliyah, pushing the self-doubt to the back of her mind. "We're offering a cultural exchange program that could be a pivotal moment in your academic journey." Cultural exchange. The idea brought forth visions of vibrant marketplaces, bustling classrooms, and perhaps, the chance to tell her story on a grander stage. The possibility was enticing, yet questions flared in her mind. Would she be able to handle the challenges it presented? Would her story resonate in another language, another culture? "Thank you, Ms. Thompson. That sounds incredible. Can you tell me more about it?" Her voice was steadier than she felt. "There will be language immersion, and we're looking for individuals who can share their unique experiences. You possess a wonderful ability to connect people through your narrative, Ms. Thompson explained. Aaliyah sat up straighter. A chance to share her journey. A chance to grow. As the conversation unfolded, Aaliyah learned of the intensive language courses that accompanied the program. Her heart raced with an unexpected thrill. Language had always intrigued her. The power to communicate beyond barriers felt both empowering and frightening. You'll be tasked with integrating your personal narrative while also adapting to a new environment. It's a leap, but I believe you're ready for this, Ms. Thompson encouraged, and Aaliyah felt something deep within her shift. But could she really do that? Would a young black woman from her neighborhood represent something more significant than her own experience? Could she dare to bridge cultural gaps? Yes, I think I would like to apply, Aaliyah stammered, each word bubbling down from the depths of her uncertainty, infusing them with belief. A smile unfurled on her face, tinged with excitement. Great, Ms. Thompson replied, satisfaction vibrating in her tone. I'll provide the details to help with your application. Remember, it's about exploring not just what you've accomplished but what you have yet to discover. Aaliyah hung up, an electric current of possibility coursing through her. This could be more than just carving a path for herself, it could redefine her identity. The scholarship applications felt like whispers next to this booming call to adventure. With newfound energy, she flipped open her laptop, but her mind began running wild. The urgency of the scholarship deadline still ticked away ominously. Can I tackle both? The question clawed at her. Would her story of vulnerability be enough to navigate the fears associated with soaring into the unknown? Riding that spark of resolve, she thought of her cultural roots, the narratives of resilience, and the layers of her identity. This exchange could be her launching point, a stage for growth and an opportunity to illuminate her family's strength. Lost in the rhythm of her thoughts, she began typing out her application. Each word felt laced with a future she was ready to chase. But as her fingers skimmed the keyboard, doubts flickered in the corners of her mind. Was it even feasible to juggle the demands of both the scholarship and the exchange? What if she had to choose? The thought was like ice water against her resolve, paralyzing her momentarily. The clock continued its relentless march toward the deadline, pressing down on her like a weight. Taking a breath, Aaliyah leaned back, her eyes scanning the room filled with her grandmother's memories. There lay the truth she sought, the warmth of her heritage igniting the flame within her. But was she truly prepared to reconcile her ambitions with the tapestry of her reality? The moment hung delicately in the air, charged with possibility and uncertainty. With a few final keystrokes, she clicked save. Yet, the tension lingered. There was no turning back, destiny lay in strips of paper and half-formed ideas. The call to adventure beckoned, but the tumult of decision loomed larger each moment. Which path would she embrace? As she contemplated her next moves, Aaliyah felt a storm of emotions swirl within her, dark and daunting yet exhilarating, a blend of courage and fear. The time had come to face her innermost doubts. Would she clear the obstacles before her, or would they ensnare her spirit? Aaliyah's fingers hovered over the keyboard as the weight of her decision gripped her chest. The allure of the cultural exchange program whispered promises of adventure and growth, yet the looming scholarship deadline cast a shadow over her aspirations. She could hardly comprehend the sheer magnitude of what lay ahead. Her mind reeled with possibilities, yet it was anchored by the fear of inadequacy. What if she failed? The echoes of her doubts intensified every moment she sat still. Aaliyah closed her eyes. Again, she envisioned that vibrant marketplace, bustling classrooms filled with eager learners, and the thrill of sharing her narrative to an audience beyond her imagination. This wasn't just about her, it was about paving a way for others like her. A way to express the richness of her experiences and challenge the stereotypes that seemed so tightly woven into her identity. The clock ticked obnoxiously in the background, reminding her of the urgency, but while time pressed, it also catalyzed her resolve. Could she not allow fear to dictate her path? Adrenaline coursed through her, and she could feel it steadying her breath. She opened a new document on her laptop. Aaliyah stared at the blinking cursor, the blank page a metaphor for her unbounded potential. What would be her story? How could she weave her identity into a tapestry that resonated with those from vastly different backgrounds? Determined, she began to write. Each sentence emerged like a clear crystal from a chaotic mind: her grandmother's tales of perseverance, her own triumphs amid adversity, and the whispers of countless unnamed heroes from her neighborhood. She poured her soul onto the screen, infusing every word with the passion of those who came before her. Yet as she crafted her narrative, a nagging thought emerged: was she simply regurgitating what others might want to hear? In her eagerness to connect, could she risk losing the authenticity of her voice? The tension coiled tightly within her. She had never wanted to be a token representative, but an individual, a force of authenticity. With each stroke of her keyboard, the fear began to morph into clarity. What if her authenticity was what made her narrative compelling? She knew that her story was intricately woven with every experience, triumphant or tragic. It formed the very essence of who she was and would serve as her greatest asset in the cultural exchange. Aaliyah paused, realizing she had locked horns with a fundamental question: could she embrace her identity without dilution? It seemed almost paradoxical: the more she anchored herself to her roots, the wider her story could ripple. The internal struggles persisted as she toggled back and forth between her application and the cultural exchange essay, but the prospect of growth loomed larger. The myths of inadequacy were rising against the tides of her determination. Each thought crystallized into a decision: it wasn't either slash or, it was an and. With newfound determination, Aaliyah resolved to honor both opportunities, the scholarship and the cultural exchange. They could coexist, each enriching the other, a dual path rather than a binary choice. This realization struck a chord within her, resonating deeply with the strength she often drew from her family. As she tightened the narrative in her application, the speed of her typing quickened. The fears that once anchored her now transformed into a propelling force, driving each letter toward completion. Aaliyah imagined sharing her journey, connecting deeply with those from different corners of the world. She imagined the discussions that would unfold, the narratives that could confront and inspire. Finally, she finished both applications, feeling a rush of accomplishment surge through her. Aaliyah hit send and leaned back in her chair, gasping at the weight that lifted from her shoulders. For a moment, she felt liberated, ready to embrace the unfolding journey. But lingering in the periphery, a new wave of uncertainty washed over her. With the application submitted, what next awaited her? How would she handle the impending interviews, particularly the language component? Would she be able to conquer the fears that often whispered that she wasn't deserving? The real challenges were only just beginning. With a bracing cup of herbal tea settled beside her, Aaliyah sat at the edge of her bed, surrounded by a whirlwind of colorful sticky notes plastered on her wall, each one teeming with ideas and reminders for her interviews. The comforting scent often eased her nerves, but today, a sense of dread clung stubbornly to her. She picked up her phone, scrolling through videos of people mastering new languages effortlessly, their accents smooth and their fluidity inspiring. Could she harness that same energy? The interview would not only gauge her commitment but demand an eloquence she feared had evaded her. What if her words stumbled down the path of failure, revealing her insecurities? Combating that anxiety required a plan. Aaliyah grabbed her notebook, the one where she had penned her story. Every thought she had poured into it should also serve to mold her approach to this next hurdle. She forced herself to breathe, breaking the silence of her own spiral by reciting out loud. I am capable. I am prepared. Each repetition felt like an incantation, a way to dismiss the demons that taunted her. Remembering her grandmother's stories, she scribbled a new note: embrace your journey, not just the destination. For so long, Aaliyah had internalized the pressure to perform flawlessly, but perhaps there lay power in acknowledging the truth of her struggle. If she wanted others to see her authenticity, she had to embody it in every conversation. The sound of the clock irritated her ears again, and anxiety fluttered in her stomach like a trapped bird. For days until the interview. For days to refine a narrative, to articulate her experiences, and distinctly her potential mastery of language. Initially, her inspiration to learn had been the thrill of exploration. Now, it felt like an insurmountable task shrouded in self-doubt. Hours turned into an exhausting cycle of rehearsal and criticism. Aaliyah filled her evenings practicing with her laptop, using language apps designed to enhance vocabulary and pronunciation. Sometimes, she recorded herself speaking, playing it back to pinpoint areas of improvement. Each mistake became a reflection of a commitment to growth rather than a reason to step back into the shadows. Yet, there was something else she noticed amidst her practice, the thrill of her progress. Aaliyah found joy in vocalizing even the basic phrases until they flowed naturally. On those small triumphs, she built confidence, whispering an inner mantra each time she completed a lesson. Halfway through teaching herself the intricate structure of Spanish conjugations, she sensed a breakthrough. This newfound ability to engage with language felt like watching a garden bloom. It was about nurturing her skills as much as claiming her identity. With the layers of doubt peeling away, a realization dawned upon her: the beauty of her varied experiences wasn't just an amalgamation of struggles, it also encompassed her capacity to transform and adapt. By celebrating her diversity, she could discover connections that transcended barriers. But in the early hours before the interview, when sleep eluded her once more, doubt lurked. The weight of expectations seemed insurmountable. She closed her eyes tightly, envisioning the panel's faces, wondering if they would see her as just another applicant or embrace the richness of her narrative. Would they, like her, wonder about the journey she had undertaken to arrive at this point? Just then, Aaliyah heard her phone ping a message from her best friend. A simple quote, "Leave no stone unturned." The words clung to her heart. What if she transformed her fear of inadequacy into an opportunity for connection? Suddenly, she felt a flicker of courage ignite within. What if her language skills unlocked not just dialogue but other doors she hadn't yet imagined? As she prepared to sleep, a possibility flickered in her mind: what if embracing these fears head-on became the very foundation of her success? The moment of truth was drawing closer. Would she be able to confront the panel with the power of her authentic voice? The anticipation felt electric, nudging her toward a realization that the real challenge lay not in winning their approval, but in owning the truth of her story, all the complexities wrapped up within her. As she settled into an uneasy slumber, Aaliyah's subconscious churned with fragments of her identity, ready to morph into new opportunities. The next morning, she would not just prepare for an interview, she would step onto a stage crafted by her own choices, ready to finally unveil the woman she was becoming. Aaliyah awoke to the soft light filtering through her window, an early dawn offering a new perspective. The adrenaline from the night's restless thoughts had transformed into a determined clarity. Today marked the first of detailing her journey through language. Each word felt like a brushstroke painting the canvas of her narrative, revealing shades of vulnerability and strength. Her morning routine was imbued with intention. In front of the mirror, she practiced the opening lines she had crafted the night before, each word a stepping stone toward her authentic self. "I stand before you today not merely as a candidate, but as a culmination of my experiences," she repeated, focusing on her posture, her voice steady despite the familiar tightening in her chest. This was her moment to embrace her identity. With her breakfast hastily consumed, she settled at her desk, surrounding herself once more with her colorful sticky notes. Each represented a facet of her journey: the lessons learned, the people encountered, the challenges faced. As she arranged them, she recognized a pattern emerging, like the pieces of a puzzle coming together. Her fear was not merely an obstacle, but a source of insight that could resonate with her interviewers. What if, instead of fearing the scrutiny of those critical eyes, Aaliyah invited her audience to explore her story with her? She quickly jotted down the thought: transparency breeds connection. This revelation shimmered in her mind. Her language skills were more than tools for communication, they were symbolic of her growth and resilience. With renewed vigor, she ventured to the local coffee shop, a hub of activity that energized her. The bustling atmosphere mirrored the vibrant chaos within her thoughts. Aaliyah chose a corner table, the warm scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with her determination. She pulled out her notebook, the pages now filled with reflections, affirmations, and practice dialogues. With each word she penned, she envisioned articulating them to the panel, emphasizing her evolution rather than merely detailing her achievements. Taking a moment to breathe, Aaliyah tapped into her grandmother's wisdom. "Your story is yours, and it's powerful," that voice echoed in her mind. She leaned into the concept of vulnerability, deciding to share moments of struggle alongside her triumphs. If she framed her path as a mosaic of experiences interwoven with language, it would showcase her multifaceted identity rather than a linear journey of success. Aaliyah pulled out her phone and began recording herself discussing her story. Her nerves fluttered, remnants of doubt simmering beneath her resolve. Yet as she spoke, she felt the adrenaline pulse through her veins, transforming her anxiety into a palpable energy. The recordings morphed into a montage of warmth and honesty, capturing the essence of who she was becoming. The sun rose higher, illuminating her determination as she flipped through the notes one last time before heading to her interview. In that moment, the world felt electric. She was not merely an applicant. She was a storyteller, weaving her experiences into the fabric of the languages she loved, a bridge between her past and the future she aspired to create. When she stood in front of the interview panel, Aaliyah felt a blend of excitement and calm wash over her. She took a deep breath, drawing on every practice session, every recorded dialogue, and every affirmation. The faces before her were human, not judges but potential allies willing to witness her narrative. But as the first question broke the silence, uncertainty flickered in the recesses of her mind. Would they connect with her story? With the richness of her journey? Faced with this doubt, she realized she was met with a far larger battle. This was not just about language or eloquence, it was about stepping fully into her truth. As she began to speak, her voice resonated with the power of authenticity, bursting forth with passion and vulnerability. Yet, in the back of her mind, the looming question emerged: what if her story was more than what they expected? What if revealing her true self shifted not only their perception but also her understanding of her potential? This was just the beginning. The real journey was evolving, as Aaliyah now stood on the precipice of revealing herself, prepared to confront the world with a newfound strength, a journey far beyond mere words. Aaliyah's heart raced, each pulse a reminder of the weight of the moment. With her first utterance, the atmosphere in the room shifted. She sensed the interviewers leaning forward, their expressions shifting from neutrality to something resembling genuine curiosity. It was exhilarating, yet daunting. Every eye upon her felt like a spotlight illuminating not just her capabilities, but her vulnerabilities. The initial question, a simple prompt about her passion for languages, had opened a floodgate. Aaliyah spoke of her childhood, of evenings spent deciphering the rhythms of her grandmother's stories. Each tale was not merely a narrative, it was a lesson, a filament woven into her understanding of identity. The more she spoke, the more she recognized that her journey was not just about mastering languages, but about unlocking pieces of herself. Yet, in the midst of this flow, an unsettling thought crept in. Had she prepared herself to defend her narrative? What if they pressed her about specifics, about doubts she had? The edifice of self-assurance began to tremble. Who was she without the successes? Could she afford to articulate her missteps, those moments of faltering confidence, or would that undermine the weight of her story? The interviewers took notes, their pens scratching against the paper like the passing of time. A wave of resolve galvanized her spirit. Language has the power to connect us to our past and project us into our future, she continued, lifting her chin defiantly. Her voice grew steadier. This was her moment, not merely to shine but to illuminate the complexity of her path. As she transitioned from her upbringing to her academic pursuits, the conversation deepened. She shared how each new language represented a bridge to another facet of culture, how learning Spanish opened insights into the rhythm of life shared among families, or how her flirtation with Japanese immersed her in an appreciation for nuance. She felt a surge of clarity. Language was her canvas, and every dialect painted a broader understanding of humanity. But a question from one of the judges pierced through her flow, quickening her pulse. Can you tell us about a time when this linguistic journey challenged you? Her breath caught. It was as if the room contracted, the stakes amplified. It was time to confront the shadows she sometimes avoided. Cool sweat formed on her palms, yet the clarity of purpose crystallized her resolve. She spoke candidly about her struggle with self-doubt during her first language immersion abroad. The memories came flooding back, the intimidation of speaking with native speakers, the embarrassment of mispronunciations. "I almost backed out," she admitted, her voice steady but raw. "But I realized the discomfort was just another step on the path to understanding not just languages, but myself." As she articulated this, something shifted in her. She felt expansive, as if the story was beyond mere words. This was her evolution, her courage on display. The panel nodded, their interest piquing anew, and for a moment, Aaliyah experienced an unexpected allyship. She was no longer just a candidate, but a voyager offering guidance on the journey of connection through language. With the end of the interview approaching, she sensed the lingering questions in the air, unspoken yet palpable. She had invited them into her narrative, yet what would they take from it? Would they see her vulnerability as weakness, or strength? Just as a crucial silence hovered, the lead interviewer finally spoke. "Aaliyah, your story is not just compelling, it's necessary. What do you envision for your linguistic journey moving forward?" In that heavy moment, a spark ignited within her. She contemplated the broad horizon of possibilities stretching ahead, the languages still unlearned, the cultures yet to be embraced. This was not merely about an opportunity, it was about potential, an unfolding journey that continued beyond today's interview. As she began to articulate her dreams, a decisive energy coursed through her. But buried beneath her aspirations lay an unsettling understanding of her own limits and the call to confront them. What if embracing this journey required more than she had anticipated? The question lingered in her mind: what would she sacrifice at the altar of growth? As she concluded her insights, the thrill of possibility intertwined with the shadows of doubt. The real challenge was just surfacing, echoing in the back of her mind, beckoning her to dig deeper and confront what lay ahead. The exposure to her vulnerabilities had transformed her story into an opportunity for growth, one that she couldn't ignore. The moment hung in the air, promising revelation, as Aaliyah sensed the next conversation waiting just beyond her immediate reach. What would that journey demand of her next? Aaliyah stepped out of the interview room, the echoes of her own voice still resounding in her ears. The fluorescent lights hummed above her, a steady reminder of the world outside that awaited her. As she walked down the corridor, her heart fluttered with a mix of exhilaration and dread. The questions posed to her were still sharp in her mind, particularly the one about her future aspirations. She felt on the precipice of something vast and unknown. What could she even imagine moving forward? The languages she had studied suddenly appeared not as mere tools but as keys to uncharted territories of her spirit and intellect. Each one was not just a linguistic puzzle but a potential portal to a new part of her being. But along with that realization came a daunting question: what sacrifices must she make to dive deeper into this journey? The elevator doors closed smoothly behind her, enclosing her in a reflective silence. As it descended, she caught a glimpse of her own eyes in the polished metal. Would they hold the same confident spark if the weight of expectations pressed upon her from all sides? She exhaled slowly, trying to shake off the tension that wrapped around her. The more she thought about the challenges she would inevitably face, the heavier that weight seemed to grow. Exiting the building, Aaliyah was met by a gust of fresh air that felt both liberating and intimidating. She spoke in her truth, and despite the doubts churning within her, she had navigated the interview with a grace she hadn't known she possessed. But as she moved towards her car, she felt the familiar pang of self-doubt creep back in. Was this moment merely a fleeting victory? Would she transform her aspirations into solid accomplishments? With her hands gripping the steering wheel, Aaliyah's mind raced. The notion of continuing her language pursuits ignited sparks of enthusiasm, but the shadows of uncertainty also loomed large. For every language she sought to learn, there seemed to be an equal opportunity for misunderstanding, for failure. Those were the prospects that weighed on her heart like stones. As she drove through the city, the urban landscape shifted before her, a canvas of bustling life and diverse cultures. Aaliyah realized that those thriving intersections were not unlike the paths of language learning she aspired to explore. Each turn, each bustling corner hinted at stories waiting to be unveiled, new connections yearning to be made. Could she be brave enough to step into these narratives? A sudden thought took her breath away. Were her fears of inadequacy actually a catalyst for growth? The realization struck with unexpected clarity: embracing discomfort was part of the journey, not a barrier. If she were to fully invest in her passion, she would have to venture into realms of uncertainty and discomfort that could be both humbling and enlightening. With newfound resolve surging through her, Aaliyah parked under a maple tree at the edge of the park, a familiar refuge that invited reflection. She sat for a moment, her heart racing again, this time propelled by anticipation instead of anxiety. She needed a plan. What strategies could she employ to immerse herself in the languages that called to her? Would she seek out local communities, volunteer for exchange programs, or even travel abroad once again, despite the fears she felt? She pulled out her phone and began crafting a list, each bullet representing a stepping stone on her quest for mastery. But hidden within that promising exhale of ambition was the nagging voice reminding her of the unfolding sacrifices: time, comfort, maybe even financial stability. And just as she finished jotting down her ideas, a new message alert flashed on her screen. It was an invitation to a local cultural event focusing on multilingual storytelling. Reading the details sparked something within her: a thrill of the unknown, the pull to connect with others who shared her passion. Yet, an internal battle raged: would she attend, or would hesitation hold her back? As Aaliyah contemplated her next move, an undeniable realization dawned: her journey had only just begun, and with it rose the question that loomed over everything: could she truly rise to meet the challenges and opportunities that awaited her? Facing that uncertainty head-on might just be the most significant step yet. The challenge was upon her now, an electric current of possibility coursing through her veins, igniting a fire of determination intertwined with doubt. What would she choose? Aaliyah embraced the decision she had made in the park that day. She would attend the cultural event, stepping into a space brimming with potential. The desire to connect deeply with others who shared her passion for language and culture overshadowed her lingering fears. It was time to transform her doubts into action and opportunity. As she entered the venue that evening, her pulse quickened, but she steadied herself with a deep breath. The room was alive with conversations in various languages, and vibrant artwork adorned the walls, a testament to the cultures that thrived in this community. Aaliyah moved through the crowd, her senses alight with anticipation. This was not merely an event, it was a confluence of her aspirations, a chance to immerse herself fully in the very essence of what she sought. She gravitated toward a group huddled around a table. They were discussing the intricacies of storytelling in their native languages, exchanging anecdotes about their experiences. Aaliyah interjected, her voice steady as she shared her journey: the late-night study sessions, the thrill of performing at the talent show, and the obstacles that had shaped her understanding of identity. As she articulated her narrative, she felt the connections deepen like roots intertwining beneath the surface. One of the attendees, a young woman named Sophia, was an experienced traveler and a polyglot. "You have a remarkable story," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Language is more than just communication, it's a vessel of connection. Have you considered creating a platform to share your journey?" Aaliyah's mind raced. A platform? A place where her narrative could inspire others navigating their own linguistic landscapes. The spark ignited a clarity in her. "I want to explore the potential of language beyond just learning. I want to inspire others to see it as a bridge to understand cultures and to confront their biases." Sophia nodded, and the conversation deepened over the course of the evening. Aaliyah shared her thoughts on scripting her reflections, creating videos or articles that chronicled her experiences and dreams. With each word, she felt her ambition coalesce into something tangible, a direction that was both daring and fulfilling. In the days that followed, empowered by the connections she had forged, Aaliyah dedicated herself to building a digital platform, a blog that would document not only her linguistic journey but the stories of those she met along the way. Her objective was clear: to illustrate language as a bridge, not just a tool. The pieces fell into place. She envisioned interviews with others, cultural exchanges, and even performative storytelling that blended her languages, allowing her myriad experiences to unfold in a rich tapestry. As weeks turned into months, her blog flourished. She shared her personal reflections on her growth, the challenges faced, and the triumphs celebrated, embedding cultural narratives alongside her own. Aaliyah actively sought volunteers from fellow language enthusiasts to cultural ambassadors, creating a community that embraced diversity in all mediums. She began receiving invitations to speak at events, to share her insights, to engage with students curious about cultures different from their own. And with every opportunity, she harnessed the nervous energy that used to consume her, now transforming it into powerful messages of empowerment. She demonstrated, through her story, that it was not just her success that mattered, it was the ability to cultivate understanding and connection. One evening, standing in front of a group of eager listeners, both young and old, Aaliyah delivered a presentation about the power of language immersion and cultural exchange. The audience hung on her every word. She was no longer the timid girl from Willow Creek but a confident ambassador of her truth. Each applause felt like the culmination of her journey, a testament to her hard-won transformation. Reflecting on her rise, Aaliyah understood that the trepidation she once felt had evolved into a deep-seated confidence. She had transformed her fears into fuel for growth. The scholarship that once seemed out of reach now stood as a milestone, not as the end but a continuation of her journey. The recognition she garnered was not simply for her linguistic abilities but for her authentic storytelling and narrative that transcended personal achievement. "You inspired me to embrace my own voice," a young attendee remarked afterwards. Aaliyah beamed with pride. It was here, in the heart of this vibrant community she had cultivated, that she truly recognized her achievement. The flourishing network she nurtured reflected not only her hard work but the potential everyone held to confront their doubts. And so, Aaliyah had officially emerged as a vibrant voice, weaving together the languages of her past with the narratives of her present, establishing herself firmly not just in Willow Creek but as a beacon for others to traverse their journeys of cultural understanding. Her transformation was complete. She had conquered not only her fears but also paved the way for others to do the same. As she stood there, the applause cascading around her, Aaliyah knew she had achieved something remarkable, an ascension into a future where her potential would continue to unfold, limitless and dynamic. Now, you need to subscribe now to capture the essence of these exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts and theories on this powerful journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this story of personal transformation.